What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench. Of course, I'm your host, DeMarcus. Hope everybody having a great day today. We're going to come to you with a brief episode today. Don't have much on the plate today, but I do want to bring up two things, just, get people, brains churning, thinking, processing. And the two ideas that I want to present to you today. First idea, because I heard this on the PG podcast. Shout out to Paul George and his podcast and everything he do over there. But there was, conversation going on, and one of the things they talked about, they said, there's some sorry players in the NBA. So let's digest that a little bit. So we're talking about sorry players in the NBA. Now, are they saying like guys just can't play? Or are they saying that guys just don't have the same work ethic, don't have the same drive, don't want it as much as the other players in the NBA? And I think we all can, say that we've seen players in the NBA, from these draft classes and from guys that just don't last in the league, or they get moved around so much in the league, or they're on G League teams, or they're just always seeming like they just can't find their spot, in the NBA. So I don't want to say that guys in the NBA are sorry, because like I said, I've never played in the NBA. I've played some overseas basketball, and I played against a lot of guys that have played professional too as well. And I've seen a lot of NBA guys work out. I've seen a lot of NBA guys play in games. So I don't want to say that guys in the NBA are sorry. But what I will agree with, and the guy that was talking, one of the players that were talking on PG's podcast was DeMar DeRozan. And I will agree with him to an extent of that I do believe that there's guys in the NBA that don't want it as much and don't care about the game and don't love the game as much as other players. Because you can just look at, what they do on the floor and off the floor. You can tell that some guys they're just happy with just being in the NBA. That was enough for them. They made it to the NBA. That was enough. And whatever they can, gain from the NBA for the amount of time or little amount of time that they're in the league, they're happy with that. But then, of course, you have your guys that are thriving and just, elevating every single year, achieving, more and more every single year. And those standouts, you see it. You see the big name players in the league today that that they're putting in the work every single day, from playing summer ball to playing in the Olympics when the Olympics come around. And then, of course, during the season, what they do preparation-wise, how they take care of their body, how they're more and more efficient, or just as efficient as they was the previous year. And then also, like I said, injury is not a big deal for them, as well as, just their mindset of what they want each and every year, from achieving individual goals to the playoffs to possibly playing for the finals. So I think that guys in the NBA, and I just think the NBA in general, in any professional sport, you're gonna have your guys and girls that are the stars that carry the load for the league, and then of course you have your guys and girls that just content with being there. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but at the same time, I think sometimes people in any career field, they get complacent. They think they've achieved enough, and that's more than what they thought they would ever receive in their lifetime, and they're getting that. So that's that contentment and that complacent feel that they have is just enough. They don't need to, go overboard for other things that they want in their life or don't want in their life. So I think, I don't want to say they're sorry players in the league, because like I said before when I just started, to make it to the NBA, you got to be a talented player. Nobody in the NBA can't play basketball. Now, there are guys that don't understand the X's and O's like other guys. And then there are guys that had to kind of dummy down their game. I mean, you look at, players like Patrick Beverley, who was an elite scorer in high school and in college, and then he had to come and transition into being a strictly defensive player and, dog in the league. And he's played almost 20 years in the league now. So you got players like him. You got a lot of players. Draymond Green, never been known for scoring, but motivating, hardworking, and then, of course, how he plays and how he honors the game is unlike anybody else. So you have your different players in the league that are doing that. But then, of course, you have your guys that stand out, that are your elite scorers, that are your, dominant players and your big names that are carrying the league, to today and in previous years. And then, of course, you got your upcoming players that's coming behind them, that's watching them, that's being around them, that's going to carry the league for the next years to come. So, yes, I don't know, but y'all comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think players in the NBA or groups of players in the NBA are sorry? Or do you just think, like I said, they just don't have the drive and the want like other players? And is that bad? Is that a bad thing? Who knows? I don't know. Me personally, if I was in the league, I would want, to elevate every single year, get better every single year, learn more every single year, grow on the floor and off the floor with businesses of my own that I have created, through the opportunity to be in the league. And then, of course, pass it on to the next group of guys that's coming up behind me, because we all know that it doesn't last forever. You can't play forever. Like I said, what LeBron James is doing in the NBA and defying the odds is incredible. I know he just signed a new deal and he's going to play for a few more years, and we don't know. He might play into his, early 40s or mid 40s. We don't know. He takes such a good care of his body. One thing I would say that I would love to see more, from our star players in the league is I would love to see more of the process. I know they do, they do a great job of showing you on social media kind of their personal life, but I would love for them to see, love to see them showing more and more of, hey, this is how I eat. This is what time I get up. This is what time I go to sleep. This is, the amount of time I spend on conditioning, the amount of time I spend on weight training, the amount of time I spend on all the different things that make me the best player that I can be at the right times when I need it. Because you don't really see full detail of that. So I would love to see more of them, giving us more of those insights. Steph Curry, letting people see the, 500, 600 or 1,000 shots he gets up a day. Because we all know that, our young girls and our young men who watch these stars, they see the finished product, but they don't get to see the buildup and the foundation that's made to be able to be that elite player and be consistent and be efficient every single year, every single season. So I would love for, the top guys and girls to show more of that. But, I think you can obviously see that there's a class difference in professional sports. So I wouldn't say players are sorry. I just would say players that, they just don't want it like the next player. Not a bad thing, but you would think that people in that position would always hunger for more levels of their skill set and be able to play a long-lasting career in the NBA. Because we've seen a lot of guys come into the league and 2 years later, 3 years later, they're not in the league no more. And that's one of the things we're gonna cover in upcoming episodes is that there's a lot of players in these draft classes over the last 10 to 15 years. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the ones that's still in it and why they're still in it, and then talk about the ones that's not in it and why they're not in it no more. And also talk about the guys that never got a chance that probably should have gotten a chance. So we'll definitely dissect that in upcoming episodes. So stay tuned for that. And just comment down below. Like I said, let me know what you think. Are players sorry in the NBA, or just players just like anything? You have your upper echelon, and then you have your lower tier, and then you have your mid-tier athletes. So, but now, going from that, want to kind of get on, the analysts a little bit in this second part of my video or this episode today, because we hear a lot of analysts, a lot of podcasters, a lot of people that talk about players, and players that might have underachieved in their opinion, or players that necessarily are telling other players what to do now that they're no longer in the field, and saying that, hey, when you was playing, you never did the things that you're telling these players to do now. And what I would like to say to all of the analysts and to all of the reporters and to all the people who come on podcasts, that come on any media platform and talk about the players, let's remember that every athlete is their own individual person. And what I mean by that, they have their own ideas and they have their own outlook of what their career should be or what their career was at the time of their playing. Now, of course, They might have not done exactly what you think they should have done, but one thing they did do is learn. So guess what? They're now, filling people in on those details of understanding, hey, this is what you need to do, because I know when I was playing, I didn't do those things. So I'm trying to help the next group of player or the next athlete or the next young player coming into the league know that, hey, man, when I was playing, I didn't do it, but I'm telling you now, I'm trying to help coach you and guide you on what to do. And let's also remember the elephant in the room. A lot of analysts and a lot of people that speak on sports, they never actually played the game. They never really played the game. Now, that doesn't discredit them from the ability to talk about the game, but because like myself, I've played sports my whole entire life, but I've never played on a professional level. But I also have been in the trenches. I also have been in locker rooms. I've seen, excellence in work ethic of certain players, and I've seen, lackadaisical and no work ethic and great players that could have been great, but because of their work ethic, they never became what they should have become. So, we have to remember that the ones that never really played the sport, they're just basing off of stories they hear from other people or what they see actually live on film, on the floor, on the field, on the ice, in the mound, or whatever sport they're covering. And I know y'all might be thinking, what are you talking about, DeMarcus? Like, fill us in on where you're coming from. So I know there's been, plenty of analysts, recently in the past that have said stuff. And I know one is, I think her name is Kimberly. I don't want to mess up her last name, but she made a comment about, Cam Newton and how Cam Newton, is talking and telling players what to do and how they should play and how they should, not market themselves, but how they should, play the game essentially. And she made comments about, and he's always talked about game managers versus, game changers. And she was, basically talking down to him, saying about how he was none of these things. But we sometimes forget that we look at a player's end of their career versus their whole spectrum of their career. Because Cam Newton was a MVP quarterback. He was a dog at the peak of his game. Now, of course, we saw the end of his career, and that wasn't Cam Newton that we knew him to be. But not everybody keeps that, that elite level up. It's a very tough thing to do. Only a few, handful of people are able to keep up an elite performance, elite level of play their entire career. Some guys start off slow and then they elevate and then they surpass what people thought they can be. Or sometimes guys are coming in, they have all this hype behind their name, and have all this what they should be, and they end up, slowly decreasing each and every year and becoming, at the end of it, something we don't recognize. So we tend, I know in the media, we tend to forget about what they were at their peak and only focus on what they were at the end of their career. So I know Ms. Kimberly, I know when she was talking about Cam, she was really more pointing towards at his end of his career versus looking at his whole totality of what he's done in the league and how he changed the quarterback position. And a lot of guys are what they are now because of a Cam Newton being in the league, because of a Michael Vick being in the league, because of other type of players, Dante Culpepper, those type of, bigger quarterbacks that can run, get outside the pocket, throw outside the pocket, and change the game in that sense. Instead of being like Cam Newton say, a game manager, who's a guy that, hey, just don't make a mistake. I'm gonna manage the game. I'm not gonna, turn the ball over. I'm gonna make sure that every opportunity I have, I'm gonna put my team in the best position to, win the game. So we have to remember, as we're talking about athletes, currently playing and formerly playing, is that unless we've been in those moments, unless we have had an opportunity to, play at that, necessary level, that we need to be very careful that we talk about them at the, lower level of their career versus what they were at the peak of their career. So we got to remember that, because that's important, because, sometimes, the game becomes so much different than what you were when you originally was playing, that your game don't fit the game no more. Your style don't fit the game no more. So that's a lot of times why you kind of get eased out the way is because now the way the game is being played, your game and how you used to do it, it just doesn't fit. And that's the beauty of the sport, that it's always changing, always growing, always developing, always having new styles implemented into the game. That's a great thing for the sport. That's why the sport will continue on and continue to be a big deal, even though these certain names no longer are in the game. But I love to see the former players and the current players, what they're doing on their platforms by spreading the good news and basically not holding back, because I think personally, I would rather hear it from a former player dissect a current player, because guess what? That current player will respect what that former player is saying, because they were in that same trench with them, and they've played with them, or they've played against them, or they've watched them growing up. So when you hear Hall of Fame players, or when you hear guys that had a great 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years in their particular league, you respect what they're saying. So when they come at you, it's not as a disrespect or a stab like it might come from an analyst who might not play the sport. But like I said before, that doesn't mean that because they didn't play that they can't talk about the sport. Everybody has a right to their opinion. Everybody has a right to, express what they feel about a certain situation with a player. But we also just got to remember that, hey, if you haven't done it, and vice versa, when a player comes over to the analyst side, they got to respect the analyst too as well, because, if they're learning how to do it, so they don't know all the ins and outs of how to report and how to put notes together and all those things. So we want to remember from both sides. But I just think as a podcaster, as a person that is out here, speaking my mind and my opinion on certain things and being critical about certain things when it comes to sports, I have to remember that I might not know everything going on in that player's mind, so I don't want to act like I do, or think that I do, or assume because I've heard from someone that's close to that player or close to that situation that what they're telling me is all be all in the truth of why that player is doing what that player is doing. Because when you play sports, man, especially when you play at a high level, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to compute, a lot to develop in. So some guys and girls, they're faster bloomers than others, but that doesn't mean that they don't necessarily understand what it takes to be successful in that field. It's just that, hey, sometimes their situation, the style of play that team is wanting to do, it outgrows the player that's on the team. That's just what I think sometimes. So we just got to remember that when we're talking about these guys and we're talking about these girls that are doing what they're doing in these levels, we got to first off just appreciate what they do and how much work they put in, and then also, honor them by saying, respecting them in their decision to now, pass on their gems and pass on their information and pass on their experiences to players. So hopefully the next generation of players don't necessarily have to go through what they went through. So I think that's important for all people that talk about sports to remember that. So, man, I think, let me go back to my notes here. But no, y'all comment down below. Let me know what you think. Should analysts have the right to, be as critical with their comments and as personal with their comments, or should analysts be more respectful of the player and what the player is going through, especially if they haven't necessarily played the sport to the same level of what they have, to understand the ins and outs of what they're going through in that level. So comment down below, let me know what y'all think. And man, I think that's going to wrap this episode. Like I said, short and sweet, to the point, 2 quick topics, segments that I think definitely can be very, very good conversational pieces for each and every one of you out there. So like I say, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about today's episode, what you think about what's going on in those 2 different topics. And like I said, we'll definitely make sure to, talk about it in upcoming episodes, and stay tuned for more episodes coming down the road. Because as you can see, we're doing some different things with the podcast, but just to try to make content better, trying to make you guys have fun with us as you're watching and continuing to grow with us. And like we always say, before you leave, make sure you like, you subscribe, you share, you comment. Follow us on all of our other social media, which is always linked down below. And man, until the next episode, man, y'all stay tuned. Have a great day. Peace.